Martin Popoff here from the Contrarians, back again with another edition of Reliving Old Reviews is a useless tool of confusion. This is a short snapper kind of a show that we're doing here at the Contrarians, where we look at an old review of an album that grew in stature over time, just see if the reviewer got it right. Today we are looking at a review by John Millward of Kiss Destroyer in Rolling Stone magazine. What I've decided since starting these, I used to go back and kind of like read the review first to see what's going on, but I like going in cold, so it's more like a straight reaction video. By the way, if you go to martinpopoff.com, you can get my Kiss book, Kiss at 50. This is basically a big hardcover, full color throughout. Look at 50 Kiss career highlights, available at martinpopoff.com. I will sign them however you want, if it's a Christmas present for someone, all that sort of stuff. So let's dig into it here. So obviously we're going back to 1976 for the review of a 1976 album. To see what they thought, boots on the ground sort of thing. Okay, so what John says here is, there's no doubt that Destroyer is Kiss's best album yet, or that Bob Ezrin, Alice Cooper's heavy-handed wizard of heavy metal production, who helped write 7 of the 9 tunes here, has made the difference. So yeah, we know that Bob Ezrin gets in on the songwriting credits. He's doing it with Deep Purple as well right now. And we know he does get in and muck about with the songs and change things around and suggest things. He's definitely a great song guy. I like the fact that we've got heavy dash metal. So they're not really getting the heavy metal term right, even in 1976. It doesn't really have a dash in it, but they're putting a dash in it here. And calling it Kiss's best album. I mean, there's only 3 studio albums before this, right? So there's not a lot to compare to. I personally think Destroyer is their best album. Maybe that's the boring answer out there in the world. The funny thing about this record is that they fired Bob Ezrin after this, thinking he ruined the band. And then, of course, they have second thoughts, and he even comes back later, of course, on The Elder and on Revenge, right? So, split by a lot of time. But yeah, it's funny how this, they got quite a bit of abuse for this album. Well, I don't know yet. Maybe let's see how much abuse they're getting for the rest of this. Well, he's already said it's a good album. But yeah, they definitely got some bad reviews as well. And after this album came out, they were kind of second guessing this pretty fancy pants, smarty pants direction that they were going in here. So it's kind of funny how it's gotten to be such a great album over time. And like I say, I think it's probably their best album. Let's see. That could make their music. Okay, did I read this part yet? I'm not sure. But despite Ezrin's superb production, Kiss still lacks that flash of creative madness that could have made their music interesting or at least listenable. So this is a really creative album. He says it lacks the flash of creative madness. He says that it could have made their music interesting. And I think this is an interesting album. And I think it's a very listenable album. It's a well-recorded album, too. I think it's got great production, great bottom end, high end, everything, all sorts of interesting arrangements. Then he says the leadoff song, Detroit Rock City, begins with 90 seconds of Cooper-like effects. The sounds of the breakfast table and a news announcer in the background reading a story of a kid who died in a head-on collision. Then a flashback to the doomed youth entering his car that night, his mind undoubtedly on the song that follows, and finally in the coda, the screeching crash. Unfortunately, Kiss entirely lacked the satiric distance that often made Cooper's use of such conceits genuinely funny, and worse yet, such gimmickry as the best Destroyer has to offer. I think it's kind of funny calling him Cooper, right? Whoever calls Alice Cooper Cooper, right? And also, saying that this gimmickry is the best Destroyer has to offer. That's kind of interesting because in a sense, I agree with them. I think that is the most remarkable thing about this album is that whole opening soundtracky sequence. That is really kind of a cool thing on this. I remember hearing that for the first time and just freaking out, thinking it was great, right? So yeah, it's kind of interesting and it is gimmicky, but that's fine, Bob Ezrin will be back giving us gimmicks on Pink Floyd The Wall as well, right? Although, that's Pink Floyd already knew how to do that. I kind of think that Pink Floyd got rich through gimmicks, more or less. I think that was their kind of cool thing about them, right? Okay, let's see what he ends off with here. The songs, save for 2 bloated ballads, are relentless riff rockers rooted in patently pedestrian drumming. I mean, the drumming is fairly simple. I wouldn't call the songs relentless riff rockers. I think that's a little extreme. And I don't think the two ballads are, I guess he's talking about Beth and Great Expectations. I mean, Great Expectations is bloated. Beth is not bloated at all, really. Although constructed with professional aplomb, making use of a wide array of heavy metal conventions, there's nothing new here. Even when an effective melody, such as the rabble-rousing Shout It Out Loud, is presented, the lackluster performances dampen the effect. The vocals are undistinguished and emotionally empty. The lyrics about partying and the rock scene, with plenty of campy S&M allusions, true. Worse yet, there's not a memorable guitar solo on the album. So I'm going to disagree with a lot of this here. Let's see. Let's go right back to the beginning. Constructed with professional aplomb, absolutely that's true. Making use of an array of heavy metal conventions, there's nothing new here. Even for 1976, there's quite a lot of new heavy metal here. I mean, heavy metal albums, there aren't that many even by 1976, so it's fresh enough for me. Even when an effective melody, he calls Shout It Out Loud rabble-rousing. That's pretty cool. The lackluster performances dampen the effect. I think the performances are great. I have no problem with the performances. The vocals are undistinguished and emotionally empty. I think that's ridiculous too, because you know, Gene and Paul and even Peter. Is there any Ace? There's no Ace singing on this, right? I think the vocals are absolutely, you know, that's one of the great hidden secrets of Kiss that people don't talk about enough, is how great these guys are as vocalists. They're not emotionally empty at all. The lyrics, yeah. Worse yet, there's not a memorable guitar solo. I think it's fine for guitar solos too. So yeah, a little bit of positive, a little bit of negative, mostly negative. So maybe this is one of those reviews probably that got them mad at Bob Ezrin, because Rolling Stone is a big deal, right? This is a June 3rd, 1976 edition of Rolling Stone. So so there you go. That was another Reliving Old Reviews as a Useless Tool of Confusion. You know, subscribe, like, all that kind of stuff. Let us know in the comments what you think of this review by John Millward, and we shall be back with another episode soon.